Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living that tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. Today is part 2 of the actual house move. I am sitting in my yard, so spoiler alert, we made it. But this was probably the most exciting day of the move, and I'm going to try and do this voiceover quickly because the sun is going down. I have my Wild Rose Raspberry Ale, the last of the beers that I brought from Alberta, and I just want to give you a little context of the video that you're going to see. I'm also wearing my Nightmare Before Christmas pajamas because why not, right? It's the end of a busy day. So we're gonna start off where we left off last week, which is at the hotel in Langley. I know I got it wrong in my last video. I was interchanging Langford and Langley. I apologize. Langford is on the island. Langley is on the mainland. I do know that, but I just keep getting those mixed up. So sorry about that. But we were in Langley. Good morning. It's Thursday, September 22nd. And we are parked in the Best Western parking lot because my amazing movers are staying here tonight. As you can see, they don't have one of those like commercial truck cabs with a bed in it and stuff like that, so we are parked right beside. And today we head to the ferry, which is super exciting. You know, I think I'll be able to breathe once I'm on Vancouver Island, but driving all this way, we drove 15 hours. No, we didn't drive 15 hours, but it was 15 hours from when we pulled out of the park in Calgary to stopping here with some exciting pit stops, as you saw. But let me just walk around. I just wanted to sort of compare the difference in length. So I am at the same back end as the tiny house. And with the trailer on the van, I'm just the same length as the house, which just kind of cracks me up. And then there's Andrew's truck. Like I say, Andrew and Nomi, if you're watching this, and I hope you are, I love you guys. You guys are amazing, and I will be eternally grateful for the care that you took of the tiny house, but also of us. Let's see that tire, how that's doing this morning, like it's going to be any different from it was last night. Probably won't be able to see it. There it is. All that black stuff, that melted rubber is apparently coming off. I don't know how, but if they say it can, then I believe them. So, just walking behind here. That's where we're at. Now, if I could just get Jamie to wake fully up so that we could get going. Today's going to be a much shorter day. We are 45 minutes from the Tsawwassen ferry terminal. Our reservation is for the 7:45 a.m. ferry. We're going to get there at 6:45 to check in. And then once we're on the ferry, it's 2 hours. And we are going to, I think it's James Bay. No, that's probably not what it's called. But the Nanaimo ferry terminal. And then coming down the island. So It's a 2-hour ferry ride, and then once we're on the island, we only have one more hurdle. And I will share that when we get there. So, talk to you soon.
Here we are, so quickly running out of road.
So we drove to the ferry, and I did make sure I was right behind the house in the to go through the ticket booth. I don't know what it's called, but the booth, so that I could ask to see if I could get onto the same level right behind the house. Turns out I couldn't, because the house goes as a commercial vehicle, and so I couldn't be on the same level. But the house stopped there a long time, and then the lady from the booth came out, and she had that little wheel that measures length, and she walked around the the house and truck multiple times measuring. And then eventually they got going. We got through. That's when she told me, no, I'd have to go on a different lane. And Andrew in the house and Noemi in the house ended up on a totally different lane, and they were like way up at the front, and I was way back in a totally separate lane for regular vehicles. So after we got parked and stopped, I did get a call from Andrew because to let me know that what the holdup was. Turns out the house was wider. The house is supposed to be 9.5 feet wide, including the overhangs, like the widest part. And I think it is. But the lady at the ticket booth was convinced that it wasn't. It was 9 feet 9 inches, and so therefore a lot wider than he had reserved. And so she charged him more for that. But she also said that because of that, he might not get on the ferry. So the lane that she had put him in was the alternate lane, and which was pretty ridiculous because we had a reservation. Whatever. So he said I might not get on this ferry. I might get bumped to the second ferry. So I didn't know if I was going to end up getting to the island, to the spot before him, or we were going to get off at the same time. So eventually we got loaded onto the ferry. And as soon as we got loaded on, I got a call from him saying that they were the first ones on. He had talked to the guy who works for BC Ferries and explained the situation, that they had a reservation and here he was in the alternate line and he didn't understand why. Anyways, turns out that he and another guy that was in front of him in a truck, a transport truck, ended up being the first two on the ferry. So not only did he get on first, he actually got off first. So he was long gone by the time that I got off. In my mind, I was just so relieved because we had jumped this big hurdle about, of getting on the ferry. So now that we were on the ferry, we were going to be on the island, and I thought that was, awesome. Jamie and I we left Sophie some food and water because she had to stay in the vehicle, and we weren't allowed to stay in the vehicle. And we went up on deck and we had some breakfast. Tell Jenny what you just said to me.
And this house, or her house, is on this boat right now.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah. I don't know, when we were driving, it was just like, oh, I can see your house from here. I don't know.
It's the best thing ever. We ended up seeing just some plumes from a humpback whale. I only caught a tiny bit of it on video. It's not very impressive. It was much more impressive in person, which was why I was looking at it versus filming it. And by the time I thought to film it, it was a little too late. But we ended up having a really nice trip over. Anyway, so we got off the ferry. And we ended up catching up with the house and Andrew just after they had turned off of Highway 1 onto this road here. And the handyman Jacob was there with the wood poles that he had built in case those lines that Andrew was worried about just to back up. Andrew had been here a couple weeks before the move, and some of the lines that were crossing the road, the ones for internet, not high powered voltage, but those sorts of lines, looked kind of low. So Jacob had built these poles with a little groove in them to lift them up for the house to go under, but it turned out we didn't need them. The house cleared all of the lines. And then we got here, and that's when the real excitement started. Got to get up nice and close for this part of the video. So you're going to see from the footage that I'm going to be showing you that we were backing the house in. The driveway is over here as I'm sitting here, and we were going to back the house in this way. But in order to do that, because Andrew was coming from this direction, he had to go forward and he had to back in. Now, when he had been here a couple weeks earlier, he had talked to my landlord about the fact that the driveway was just a little too narrow, and that he wanted him to fill in one corner temporarily with gravel, rocks, logs, whatever, so that he could make that corner because it was too tight of a corner to back in. Well, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, my landlord and he and his wife ended up having their baby a couple weeks early. So he was pretty preoccupied. And so that wasn't done. And when we got here, there was no way Andrew was going to be able to back this house in here because of that driveway. See, the thing is, the driveway's like this, and he needed it to be like this from the outside so he could swing in and not, you know, cut across. So that was incredibly stressful. There's a fence on the other side of the road for the neighbors, so it's not like he could straighten out. He was doing that as much as he could, and there's just no way he could make that turn. To add complexity to the situation, there are some farms down the road at the end of this road, and it's harvest, and so there were big trucks coming down this road back and forth every once in a while. And so Andrew would work to try and get it, and then there would be a lineup of vehicles, so he'd have to back out and pull over to the side, let the vehicles go, and then start trying again. It was so stressful. They ended up getting the chainsaw, my landlord and Jacob, the handyman, and cutting a bunch of logs to put into that culvert, to try and sort of even it out. And then he had been milling some of the lumber that he had cut, and so he had these big posts. They ended up laying those on top of that. We filled it in with gravel and rocks as well, just to fill it in enough for him to be able to make that corner. I'm not describing it perfectly, but you'll see what I mean from the footage. It was an hour and a half from when we showed up here to when the house got backed into its spot. And it was so stressful because he would back up, and Noemi was directing him. They're old hands at this. They're not old, but they're old hands at this. And so she was directing him, and the wheels were coming just right to the edge. And then she'd stop him, and he'd have to try and maneuver again, and then they had to fill in some more. I ended up having to just pace back here and not watch because my heart was pounding, and I was so stressed out from it. When I said last week that it's the most stressed I think I've ever been in my life, I'm not kidding. And I think it's because I had zero control over what was going on. I just had to watch it happen, and it took so long because, again, he had to keep getting out of the way and letting vehicles pass. And then, but you know what was amazing? Well, there was a couple things that were, kind of interesting about the whole thing. One of the amazing thing was how calm Andrew was. He and Noemi just worked it, made it happen. He didn't start freaking out. He didn't get angry. He just did his job. So if you are looking for a mover to move your house and you are in Western Canada, I don't know how far east they go, or if they go into the US, but A&N Transport, Andrew saw them, and his wife Noemi. I cannot recommend them enough. They were a gift. They really were. I don't know what I would have done if I had seen them getting all stressed out and angry and frustrated or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure he was frustrated, but he just took everything in stride. And I loved the attitude. It's an attitude that I have as well. It's how I move through the world, and obviously how they move through the world. And that is, everything is figure-outable. There's a problem. We'll find a solution. Let's just get it done. There is no point in just complaining about the problem. We just have to find solutions. And that's what they did. So, getting that house backed in was incredible. Just knowing that it was finally here, finally stopped. They disconnected from the house, and that was it. We took some pictures. I told them I loved them. And off they went. That's funny. I'm sure love is not required. Payment is, which I did as well. But I just cannot express my gratitude for their care and their attention and their patience. So the last thing I had Andrew do before he left was back my van with the U-Haul trailer up into this spot because I knew I was never going to get it backed up here. So he did. And then off they went. And then Jacob and I and Jamie, we unloaded everything out of that utility trailer, the U-Haul trailer. And that was all of the siding and framing for the siding, my bike, things like that. Also all of the panels for the shed that goes under the gooseneck, and all the blocking. And then Jacob set to work removing the tires, sliding them underneath the trailer, and blocking the trailer up. And that was what I really wanted done by the end of that day. I wanted the trailer blocked up. The hitch came off, and the trailer was blocked up, and the tires were off. And that was the end of day one, except for one other little bit of excitement. So I've been warned many times about that when you're on Vancouver Island, particularly when you're not in Victoria, because that's the big city, it's the capital city of British Columbia, it's the big city on the island. But I've been warned about this thing called island time. And man, have I experienced it since I've been here. And the first experience I had with it was that afternoon. We moved out of Calgary on Wednesday. We got here on Thursday. And so it was just after 4 o'clock. And Jacob was doing the blocking. And I was supposed to take the trailer back to U-Haul on Friday. And he said, you can take it back today. There's no reason to keep it here. And I thought, that's a great idea. I'll just take it back today. It had been backed in. All I had to do was drive out. I looked up the location in Duncan of where I would take it back. But what I didn't look up was the hours of that location. So this is the only U-Haul dealership in this area. So I drive, Jamie and I get in the van, and off we go, pulling that now empty utility trailer to Duncan to drop it off. So I don't have to do it Friday. And Jacob said he would be gone by the time we got back because he was almost done. So we get to this U-Haul dealership at about 4:40, 4:42. It's closed. It closed at 4. I cannot believe how many things on this island, in this part of the island, close at 4. I don't know what you do if you need to pick up one of these utility trailers or anything from U-Haul during a work day and you happen to work till 5, but no, it closed at 4. So not a big deal, you say. Adelina, not a big deal, right? Well, the problem is I still have that trailer on the back of the van and I can't back that sucker up into this yard. That driveway's too narrow. This was the first time I had had any experience pulling a trailer, let alone with something as big as the van. We were 37 feet from the front of the van to the back of that trailer. So I get back here, saying to Jamie, it's okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Inside, I'm freaking out, but it's okay. It really is first world problems. I totally get it. So we get back here and I give it a try, backing it into this yard. And there's no way the trailer's going to jackknife. There is no way I'm backing it out. So I pull it ahead, park it up against that fence. And I had seen that this neighbor over here, who's got a great big yard, he's got a really big RV trailer in his yard and it's backed in. So I thought, I walked over there, knocked on his door and introduced myself. Hi, I'm your new neighbor. We just moved in over there. Sorry for all the fluffle, by the way. So here's the situation. Try to return the trailer, can't. Now have to back this thing up in, because even if I pulled it in to go to sleep, I still have to back it out in the morning to take it back, right? So it does, I either have the pain now or in the morning, one way or another. And backing it out in the morning is even worse because there's traffic. So I explained the situation and I said, I see a trailer over there. So obviously somebody in this house knows how to back one of those suckers up. Would you do me a favor and back my van and that utility trailer into my lot so that tomorrow all I have to do is drive off? I am so sorry to ask, but is it at all possible for you to do that? He, being a nice person, as most people are, and certainly on this island, people are so friendly, said absolutely. So he ran over here, he backed that sucker up in one shot. I thanked him profusely, and Jamie and I went to bed exhausted. We didn't have electricity in the house because there's electricity to the panel box, and I was able to plug the van in, and that's where Jamie was sleeping. But I didn't have electricity in the house because the 50 amp cord situation hadn't been sorted out yet. So we brought in the battery operated rechargeable lights from the van and the battery banks, the Jackery and the Ninja Bat. So we were good there. We did have a temporary water solution, but it wasn't enough pressure for the taps. We ended up getting that sorted out the next day. But so we brought the water jug in and that little USB tap that I use in the van, and we were using that. And because we didn't have electricity, we didn't have hot water, we didn't have propane, so the furnace and the stove weren't working, and they couldn't work even if we did have propane because they need to be switched over from natural gas to propane. That is a whole other video. I will talk about the utilities. So we were basically camping it, but Jamie was very comfortable in the van. Sophie and I were very comfortable in the house. I gotta tell you, when we got Sophie into the house, she was so happy. She was a little freaked out when we pulled her out of the van because she didn't know what now. But as soon as we brought her into the house, she just settled right back in. She's been very extra snuggly and cuddly, and we slept so well that first night. It was awesome. One of the things I kept thinking during all of the time that house was being backed in, that hour and a half where they were trying to get it backed in before it actually got set, I kept thinking to myself, it's going to make a great story. I had absolute confidence that one way or another, Andrew was going to figure it out. One way or another, this house was going to be parked here. And I was really, careful and made an intentional effort to keep some perspective on this. This was a first world problem, right? Getting a house backed in that I own, backed into a beautiful lot that was landscaped and built for me and the house in this beautiful location with these amazing people around me, including my kid. That wasn't a big deal. It was stressful, and I don't ever want to do that again, but it wasn't a big deal, and I knew that it wasn't a big deal because I knew it would make a great story down the road, and that's how I sort of look at things in life. The majority of stressors that we encounter, if we really stop and think about it, a month from now, a year from now, will we still be upset about them, or will they be a great story? How we got here and the move to the island, it's going to be, a fantastic story. Even the blowout, all of that, everything about this move was just, perfect. It wasn't uneventful, but it all worked out in the end. We are here, and I got to tell you, I feel blessed, absolutely blessed. The weather's gorgeous, and I am sitting outside my house with all of this behind me, the ravines back there, and I'm feeling very blessed. Next week, I am going to give you a tour of the lot so you can see what it all looks like. And in the following weeks, I'm going to go over the steps to get things set here, the utilities, the work that I did with Jacob to put that shed on. That was not fun, but again, not a big deal. So I just want to remind you that if you are enjoying these videos and you're not yet subscribed, why not? Then please subscribe. I really would love to have you part of this family. Thank you so much to those of you who are subscribers. Thank you very much to my Patreons. Sorry I haven't been posting a whole lot there. As you can imagine, it's been super busy. I haven't even been doing Wednesday videos, and that's because I don't have a stove or oven yet, but I will get back to those, I promise. So please subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't. YouTube likes all those interactions, and it helps the channel grow. And finally, as I always say, and I really do mean it, in a world where you could be anything, be kind, because we all need more kindness in this world, and I have felt your kindness and your well wishes definitely through this whole process. I love you guys, and I'll see you next Sunday.